Welcome to this Harlem is Healing Dialogue. I'm Musa Jackson, and I'm tentatively known as the Harlem Ambassador. I'm also the editor-in-chief of Ambassador Digital Magazine, the co-founder of the Harlem Festival of Culture, and I'm born and bred in Harlem. And I just want to welcome you guys here, but I also want to do a little cleaning, right? And do Harlem is Healing is a program of community works and New Heritage Theater Group. It began in 2020 to highlight contributions by community members responding to the pandemic and its disproportionate impact on Harlem and communities of color. Over 2 years, that original impetus expanded to include response to calls for social justice, to voting rights, to our community policing, to the very meaning of democracy itself. In the end, we all find ourselves dealing with a need for community healing and seeking our communal lessons learned. And with that, I want to introduce you guys to the guest of guests, okay? If you're from Harlem and you don't know this person, then you're not from Harlem. Because this woman right here is the queen of Harlem to me, as well as the queen of Southern comfort food. She is Melba Wilson, my dear friend. She is the owner of the phenomenal, the world famous Melba Wilson's restaurant, Melba's Restaurant, right here in Harlem. And she is the president of the New York City Hospitality Alliance. And she is also an author and a media personality. She's just all things, honey, everything. And I want to bring her on right now. The lovely, the amazing, the gorgeous Melba Wilson.
Wow, Musa, what an introduction. You are not just my Harlem ambassador. You are our Harlem ambassador. And I just want to thank you for the way that you have represented this neighborhood, this community for years. You know, Harlem is hot, but to you and I and a few others, Harlem has always been hot. It's just that now the secret is out. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, listen, it's my pleasure. It's just you are the joy of this community. You bring joy, you are a light, and you're a beacon. You're the first person I think of when people say they're coming to Harlem, like, well, you got to go to Melba's. That's a part of the criteria. You have to go to Melba's. And so to see you now and all that you're doing is just amazing. And that really takes me really honestly to my first question with you. It's just, let's just go back. Let's go back to the beginning, babe. You know, we're both from Harlem and talk about that. Just talk about what it was like growing up and just, you know, some little tidbits of what life was like for you growing up in Harlem.
Well, Musa, you know, we can't go forward unless we know from whence we've come, right? So I thank you for starting at the beginning, because in life, that's really where everything starts, where the seeds were planted. And back in the day, growing up in Harlem, for me, Harlem was a community. You know, whenever I got praised, if I did something good at school, before I got home on 138th Street, where we lived between Lenox and 7th, or on 144th Street between Lenox and 7th, on my way home, my neighbors knew about it. Mm-hmm. You know, I got a quarter from Mrs. Jones saying, "Oh, Melba, good job last week at school." Or, you know, "Melba, thank you for doing this, that, and the other." And then I got home and was praised by my parents and my siblings. So Harlem was a community that came together. When my mom cooked a meal like that Sunday supper, it was not just for a family of 5. It was just in case. Just in case you're down the street. Just in case my cousins from around the corner, whomever came by, there was always more than enough. And I often joke and I say, we're a family of 5. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we were poor. P-O. We couldn't even afford the other O and the R, right?
Yes.
We just didn't know it because the fridge was always full. But when you think of what people think about as poor today, like we had never been on a plane. I had never been on a plane until I was 17 years old. So when we talked about vacations for us were getting in that car, driving to Connecticut to visit family, or driving down south to visit family. But we were rich in other ways, Musa. Yeah. We were rich in community and we were rich in spirit. And you know that. It was nothing for me to walk by the Renaissance ballroom with my parents and just, put my ear to the door. You would hear greatness. Or to go to 125th Street and pass by the stage door of the Apollo Theater where you never knew who you would see coming out. Mm-hmm. I was mesmerized by seeing the Temptations or Gladys Knight or so many other musical greats pop out of the doors. So for me, that was entertainment. Yeah. My mom and dad often came home with pictures from the Savoy because back then the pictures were sepia. They were black and white. And I loved seeing my mom and dad go out dressed to the nines with the bright red lipstick, the hat cocked to the side. But Harlem was a place of community as well as a place of love. And that's what I remember. We're rich in spirit, we're rich in culture, and we're rich in love for community.
Yeah, I love everything you said. And you just took me back. I remember those days, going down south, that really hit home in the car, those long drives. We fall asleep, them 12-hour drives, right? With the mom cooked the night before and made all the chicken and everything in the tin foil.
In aluminum. No,
in aluminum. It was like, girl.
We didn't call it tin. See, you used to did aluminum. We did not call it
advanced aluminum. We call aluminum. That's right.
Aluminum, and without the A.
Aluminum. She's right.
Aluminum.
And my mother would label ours because it was just like you. She had 5, so everyone had their chicken for this day, for this moment, and then we stop along the way. And like you said, we were raised by a village. We had multiple aunties and uncles, and really our neighbors. I mean, we had our own obviously aunties and uncles, but everybody was a daddy and uncle or an auntie and a mama to us, and made sure we were on the straight and narrow. And that's Harlem. That's what separates us in a lot of ways from a lot of different communities, and also poured into Melba. Poured into Musa, so that we had the foundation to where we are today, right? And so
the corner stores, Musa.
Oh,
the gosh. Stores. Let's talk about that. Yeah. A safe haven, a place where you walked in and everybody literally knows your name, right? You walk in a corner store, everybody knew your name.
Right.
And if you had a regular routine, like my mother used to send us for $1 worth of spiced ham. Don't even ask me what spiced ham is or was. I don't even know if they still sell it, right?
Right.
And $1 worth of American cheese. There was no such thing as a half a pound. It was $1 or $2 worth, right? And you would go in that store, and if you did that every 2 days or whatever, and one day you missed a day, Mr. Johnson, who owned the corner store, how's your mother? You okay? Everything. It was care. Care about one another. Care about each other.
They kept a little tab. I remember in ours, they had a little note, and it would be, like you said, they'd have over here, Miss Johnson, she gets this. And well, your mom called earlier and she said she needs this from you in case you forgot, right? And then because you made, all I cared about was my penny candies in the little
come on, Mary Jane.
Come on, with the change. Okay, so let's get through. Yeah, mom, but yeah, don't forget those Mary Jane candies at the. I love those. I love those.
Me too.
But it was a good time growing up in Harlem, and you mentioned before about just those Sunday dinners and cooking, and obviously food is the center of our community, right? Food and music, but food is where we all came together because we sat at the table. We sat, speak on it. We all sat around the table. Mom prepared the meal. You didn't take orders. Mom prepared what she prepared. Right? No one came.
Give orders. You could give orders. It doesn't mean that you were going to get that order, right? But you could
Correct.
give orders, right?
Correct. Okay. And so talk about that and your experience in the kitchen and just maybe how it led into where you are, how you led into the industry of hospitality and your restaurants.
Sure. So every summer when school ended, we would go down south. That was our vacation. And like you said, we would all pile into the car. My dad did all of the driving because my mom didn't drive, still doesn't drive to this day. Love you, Mom. But, he was the dad that brought home the bacon. And he was also the dad that did all the driving and chauffeured my mom around and us around as well. And so going down south was something that I looked forward to. My brother and sister hated it. They thought it was boring. There was a lot of grass, a lot of clay. But the most important thing for me, other than connecting with my family members, my cousins, my aunts and my uncles, etc., and my grandparents, was the fact that my grandparents had a farm.
Mm.
So before the phrase farm to table was even coined, it was there that as soon as I got out of the car, I would always run to the farm and see what my grandparents were growing. And I fell in love with greens, beans, tomatoes, potatoes. Yes, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But the magic was watching my grandmother go to the garden with her apron, take these items, pile them into her apron, tie them up at the top, and go to the kitchen and create magic. And to me, that's what it was. It was magic because as I marveled at everyone's eyes around that table, they were happy, they were satisfied, but the table was also something else for us. It's a place where we got an opportunity to share history. Mm-hmm. It's where I found out about my great great grandmother Mambo, the fact that she was a product of a slave owner and a slave, the fact that she had over 400 acres of land that was passed down to her, and where most of that was stolen from her. The fact that my Aunt Donna and my grandparents hid freedom riders in the home, their first encounter with the KKK. So it's also the place that we celebrated the birth of a newborn baby and the transitioning of a loved one who had passed over. So food was the nucleus for everything that happened in our lives. And it's also a place where we actually kept our history going. And to me, that's invaluable. So when I look at food now, I look at it as a conduit to bring a diverse group of people together. I don't care where you come from. Food doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what your religious background is. It doesn't care what your financial status is. The only thing that food cares about is that you sit down, relax, and you enjoy. And I think it's a great vehicle to bring people together.
So beautiful. And I know, you're related to Sylvia, the late, great Sylvia.
Yes.
Can you talk about her influence in your life, working there, and just how that kind of gave birth to a certain way to Melba's, right? The training, the whole thing. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Truly. She was such an inspiration in my life. Sylvia taught me not what just to do, but what not to do. I was working at a place called General Adjustment Bureau, and I was throwing these little parties at a place, I think it's called Indigo Blues on 50th Street or something like that. And Tanti said to me, why don't you come and do these at Sylvia's also? So, no, she says, why don't you come and start? No, it didn't start. I'm sorry, Musa, we got to take that back. She said, why don't you plan my anniversary? And I remember now, I think it was the 30th anniversary. Oh God, I'm dating myself. It was her 30th anniversary. She goes, you plan good parties. I want you to plan a party. Plan the 30th anniversary. Voila. It was beautiful. Started working at the restaurant as a cashier. Loved everything about it. Now, previously, I had been proofing actuarial laws for a company called GAB, General Adjustment Bureau on Wall Street. Musa, hated it.
Hated it.
Oh my God. Can you imagine proofing actuarial laws? It was like watching paint dry, literally like watching paint dry. So the opportunity to be around people, to be immersed in people, was engaging to me. It was exciting to me because I used to throw parties at clubs that I was actually too young to get into at the time, like Leviticus, the Cuckoo, Hotel Diplomat. I used to throw parties at these places, and subsequently at 70 West. And these are parties I threw for Vesta Williams, I threw for Janet Jackson, and that was my extra money. But it also immersed me into the world. So being at Sylvia's gave me an amazing opportunity to showcase my love for food and for people at the same time. It was one day at Gracie Mansion, where I was representing Sylvia's, that a gentleman came up to me, and we were talking about what we're going to bring to Gracie Mansion to honor someone in food and screen. And this year, I think it was Robert De Niro. So this guy came up to me and he said, "What are you going to bring?" Now, I'm the only brown girl in the room, in my 20s, and this Pavarotti looking guy, I said to him, as per Sylvia, we're going to donate collard greens and fried chicken. And he said to me, "Why don't you bring sweet potato pie?" Well, that Harlem sass just came right into play. And I started with my head going back and forth. I'm like, "Why don't you bring sweet potato pie?" Pavarotti. They couldn't figure out what Pavarotti was doing at this event, at this meeting. Anyway, he looked at me. Everybody laughed in the room, had no clue that this guy was the one and only restaurateur, Drew Nearparent.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So embarrassed. The event comes up 8 weeks later. I get a tap on the shoulder. "These are for you." They were, Musa, the tastiest, like pies that fell straight from heaven. They were mini sweet potato mousse tarts. He handed me one. I bit into it and I go, "Oh my God, these are so good. They make me want to smack my mama." He said, "What?" AKA not literally smack your mama, but do something real crazy like that. He chuckled. A friendship was born. It was then that Drew called, said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm planning this amazing anniversary for my aunt." He said, "Can I come?" Invited him to come. And he said, "How many people were on your committee? This is fabulous." It was a 3-day event. And I said, "Committee? My aunt told me what to do and I got it done." I said, "It was a committee of one." And he was really impressed. And that's how I ended up having an opportunity of a lifetime to partner with Drew and Robert De Niro. We worked on, they wanted to open up something in the theater district. It was me and my big mouth. But as I look at it now, my love of my community and knowing about the historic Minton's Playhouse, that led me to convince them to let's focus on Harlem instead of Midtown Manhattan. Drew and Bob came up with this great idea. Let's have investors of color. For 2.5 years, Musa, we seeked investors of color. We were way ahead of our time. And their thinking was that Nobu had just opened up, super duper hot, could never get a reservation. You still can't go on, right? And they wanted people of color to really benefit from this. They felt that it would be just as hot as Nobu was. But sadly, after 2.5 years, we could not find enough investors of color. We did have people such as Lawrence Fishburne that are committed to the project that was on board. We had Russell Simmons, we had Naomi Campbell, we had Ray McGuire, such a nice amount of people. However, back then it was a $3 million project and we could not get it funded. However, we had Debbie Wright, who was then head of the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. They committed to the project. But Harlem was at a different time. Harlem was in the era of crack. Right. The yellow cabs were not coming up here, as you and I know. But for me, it was just important to revive a place that plays such a poignant part in our history, the birthplace of the music known as bebop. And even then, there were hundreds of tourists a week looking at a space that was closed, taking pictures. Remember, we had a lot of Japanese tourists coming into Harlem at the time. And for me, it was like, if not me, who? And if not now, when? Right. We have to be the stewards of our communities. And so it was an adventurous opportunity, thought, but couldn't bring it to fruition. However, I don't look at it as a loss. The experiences that I had with Drew and Bob and the myriad of people that I encountered during that time all prepared me, as well as me working for Sylvia's and working for Josefina Howard at Rosa Mexicano and Michael LaMonaco at Windows on the World. Those are the tools that I needed to prepare me to open up Melba's.
And open you did. And it's now pretty much it is a landmark to me and to the city of New York and the rest of the country when people want to come here. And with that said, we're going to move right into probably one of the most crucial times in history, which just happened recently, which was the pandemic. And just here you are, Melba, the famous Melba, you're also NYC hospitality president, and then this happens. And who it affected most was the service industries, right? The people, the front, the service, the obviously frontline workers, but the service industry, and shut down many restaurants, and people in their livelihoods. Talk about that and how you move forward in that moment, because it was crucial to the city and crucial to the industry.
Musa, I was asked to be the president of the New York City Hospitality Alliance in 2019. And I wish they had told me a pandemic was coming. But God makes no mistakes. God makes no mistakes. I serve as the first female and the first person of color. As we know, the food and beverage industry is primarily a white male-dominated industry. So for a Black girl from Harlem to be in this position, I don't take it lightly. I really, really don't. And I'm grateful. But it's not just about me, it's about we. How do we open up the doors for other brown, beige people that look like you and people that look like me, people that come from urban areas, people that have dreams, and people that on career day, you don't hear about the food and beverage industry. So it's not about me, it's about what we do as a community and as a people to expose and open doors for others. That day, March 15th, I'll never forget it. I heard about the pandemic, but we're New York. New York in that case. So nice, we had to name it twice. Mm-hmm. Our city is a 24-hour, 365 days a year city. To hear that New York City was shutting down, impossible, right? Or so we thought. I got a call from the mayor's office on March 15th that the city was shutting down. We had to shut down our restaurants. At the time, I had 39 employees whose livelihoods depended on their paychecks. 39 people who fed their families based on their paychecks. But not just 39 of my extended family members, over 26,000 restaurants in the hospitality capital in the world. Yeah. What hurt the most is that we didn't know how long this was going to last. We couldn't say to them, oh, it's going to be here for a week, a month, 6 months. So how do you prepare for the unknown? That is what was scary. Yeah. The thing called food became the thing that we're surrounded with, the thing that we don't even think about most of the time, became scarce. People couldn't afford food. People couldn't get food. People didn't have money to pay for food. So something that we take for granted and that we see all the time, all of a sudden is in high demand and is unavailable to a lot of people. And it's a lot of people that look like us. Mm-hmm. To hear about the trucks, to see the trucks filled with bodies, mm-hmm. the people that we lost, mm-hmm. never to return again. And what hurts me most, and if we're going to talk, we're going to talk, because I'm a Black girl from Harlem, born, bred, and buttered. We can do that. I feel a lot of the loss of lives did not have to happen. Mm. As we know, there was a pandemic task force previously set up. Yeah. That no longer existed. So The president at the time, whose name I will not call, said it was a hoax, said it wasn't real,
Yeah.
that it was like the flu, it was going to be gone in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I feel had it been taken seriously from the beginning, so many lives would have been saved. So that's what hurts the most, knowing that if we had been proactive, we wouldn't have to be reactive. Mm-hmm. However, the Hospitality Alliance came together like no other. Even though so many of us were losing our businesses, losing family members, we did what we do best. We came together to feed those in need. Mm-hmm. A couple of times we even set up, I'm sorry, it's just hard to talk about, but we set up days where people in the food and beverage industry could come and pick up groceries, specifically because I found out that a lot of people were ashamed. They were very ashamed to go to food pantries. And
I remember that, Melba, what you did and how you, mind me jumping in, and how you really rallied around and made sure not only the workers, your workers were taken care of, but the industry itself. I remember you on the news. I remember, it was a shining moment, but it was also for me a proud moment to see this beautiful woman that I've seen grow and just take a leadership role in a pivotal role. And I love how you adapted, how you turned it, and how you were feeding those workers, how you were feeding those families, how you were able to get funds into these needed funds, not meals, but also money, and to help them. I remember that clearly. So I know it's emotional because it seems so fresh. And then, how did you continue to adapt after that?
Well, I think it's emotional, Musa, because I don't often think about it. I think I come from a generation, same generation as you, where we just do. We don't think, right? We just pivot. We do what needs to be done. So when I take time now to think about it, that's when the emotions roll in. In the moment, you just do. You do what you have to do. You do what has to get done. Adam Silver gave us a big award. And I'm like, what is he giving us an award for? And Reggie came to me and says, well, we fed over 200,000 people. I'm like, we did? You just do it. You don't think about it. You don't count numbers. I had no clue. When people were at the polls, we got out there and fed the poll workers. That is what we do. Sometimes it was at the expense of, oh God, I can't think of his name. Help me out. Jose Andres. And sometimes it was at our expense. I'm a huge supporter of senior citizens. And for me, it was, they can't go out. They can't shop. A senior citizen going to, to the grocery store, which the grocery stores were empty, a lot of them, right? And the goods were so expensive, they couldn't shop. Right in the vicinity of the restaurant, there are 5 major senior centers where people live. And so we did a lot of food, we delivered a lot of food to them as well. So oftentimes we don't post about these things. We just do them because it's not about talking about it. It's about being about it. But since I signed my lease in 2004 and opened in 2005, my advertising budget has always gone back to the community. So I don't advertise at all. Never, ever, ever. I don't pay for advertising. That budget that I have allotted has always gone back to the community. And that's been almost 18 years now. Yeah. But there are some great things that also came from the pandemic, Musa. It taught us the importance of human connection. It really, really did. When there was no theater, we couldn't go to Broadway. We couldn't go to the movies. Please, I went natural during the pandemic because I couldn't get my hair done, right? Mm-hmm. No more dye, no more lie in that hair. But that was a good thing. It taught us the beauty of togetherness and the simple things in life. And for me, someone who has no partners or no investors, it taught me to slow down. It taught me to slow down, hurry up and slow down.
But you also have a lot of love, because one thing also came was your beautiful outdoor space, which let's talk about it, baby. That beautiful that was talk about that because you gave
Won't
it.
he do it? What's that?
Yeah.
Won't he do it?
Won't
Won't he
do
do
it.
it? Okay. I always say to my son, diamonds are born or made during what? Heat and pressure. And that's what we are. We're diamonds.
Yeah.
And we're made by heat and pressure, through heat and pressure. So one of the great things in all the years that Melba's has been open, there has never been an outdoor space because an outdoor space is like another restaurant. And when it's just you, okay, and the army of you, it's a lot to operate and to add on. But I'd always wanted to do an outdoor space. So David Rockwell, oh my God, from the Rockwell Group came up with an amazing idea of us coming together and doing a program called Dine Out New York, where he took a few hundred restaurants throughout the city, with mine being the pilot, in all 5 boroughs, and gifted us through different donors. I know mine was donated by Bill Ackerman. Thank you, Bill. But mine was donated by Bill Ackerman, the philanthropist. And the Rockwell Group donated their time, and Mr. Ackerman donated the tables, the chairs. I mean, it was thousands of dollars worth of seating and tables and chairs that we would, modules that we would not have been able to afford. A lot of restaurants couldn't afford those, especially during those times. I remember when we first opened for takeout only, because I never closed my doors. My staff, I sat down with them and said, what do you want to do? And they said, well, at least some of us working for a few hours is better than nobody working. So we did takeout. We did takeout only. And that first week, I was like, ooh, these numbers are a little bit funny. But for me, as long as we were breaking even and able to pay our staff, that's all that mattered. And then I got a call from 60 Minutes to do a special. And I was open and honest. And what people don't know, Musa, is that when I did that 60 Minutes special, it was the first time I had been out in 3 weeks. I had COVID for 2 weeks, and that was in March 2020 when everybody was afraid of it. We're still afraid of it, but it was in the beginning stages when we did not know much about it.
Right.
And Marcus said to me, Marcus called me right in the beginning. Marcus Anderson called me up. He goes, Melba, I know you like to hug people, but this COVID thing is real, and I don't want you hugging people. 2 days later, my eyelids started hurting. I was so lethargic, and I had caught COVID. And luckily, my cousin, Dr. Samson Davis from the 3 Doctors, called me every 4 hours, talked me through the whole thing, made sure that I got all the nutrients. My girlfriend Yvette went to Mama, Dr. Sobi's wife, made sure I had all the herbs and everything that I needed. And together, like they nursed me back to health. So
Melba, I am so excited. You can't, I got my fork, I got my knife ready. We used to carry with our own utensils for Newark. I can't wait. Tell us about that.
Musa, I am so excited about Newark. I came back from the New York City Food and Wine at Sobe, and co-hosted the first chef to ever co-host Live with Kelly and Ryan. And it was there that I know, just a little, thank you.
I love
just a little
that.
nothing. But I co-hosted, and that's where I broke the news. Newark, I spent so much time in Newark as a kid on the weekends, as I spoke about, visiting my family, my cousins. And Newark is a very, very rich community with ports all around it. And Lionsgate is building a film studio there. But this is a project that I've worked on for 2 years. It's 15,000 square feet. Super excited. Music downstairs. It's right across the street from Rutgers, right down the street from Audible, down the block from NJPAC. And I am super excited to be able to provide opportunities, to provide jobs, but to also provide our food and culture in this already rich historical community. And yeah, Newark is hot. Melba's is hot. So I see it as a perfect marriage.
I love that. I can't wait. I can't wait. I know the city of Newark can't wait either.
Yes, the mayor's very excited. So are the people. So
I cannot wait. I really can't. Okay, so Melba, I hear you are one of the very few, and I mean few, that is being inducted to the Cranes Hall of Fame.
oh my God. Listen, can you pinch me?
Like
Am I alive?
Melba, I'm peeking you through the screen.
Pinch me.
This is
Yeah, I mean,
crazy. What an
it's
honor.
crazy.
What an
It's
honor.
it's it's so overwhelming. Hall of Fame, like, I'm like, what did I do to be inducted to the Hall of Fame? I mean, I fry chicken for a living, uh, but I feed souls,
Mhm.
and it's such an honor to be recognized by your peers. Cranes, as we know, is one of the top business magazines, literally in the country. So to be one of five inducted this year is really amazing. Again, it's not about me. It's who do we bring up with us? Who do we bring aside from us? How do we show people that if I can, you can too? If I can, so can you? Because I'm the girl next door.
Yeah.
I'm that little red engine that everybody said couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't. So yeah, I'm honored, but I'm more so honored because I'm able to pave the way, lead the way, and show that there is a way for other people of color.
Absolutely. By seeing, listen, we see you, we see ourselves. We are grateful that you are here, what you've done, the whole nine. I can't even tell you, can't even always put into words. I've told you that a million times. The community has, and the city of New York has. And I just want to say now, Melba, you are a media star. I see your book. You're, author many times over. You're also, you own, you have a couple other things coming in Newark and in
Central
Walnut Creek,
Park.
in Central Park at the Oasis. And so talk about Melba and just talk about the future for Harlem. Talk about that. What do you see?
The future for Harlem is bright. Harlem is about celebrating culture, but more importantly, celebrating community, while not forgetting from whence we've come.
Mm.
The African drummers takes us back to Africa, of course, where the drums were used as a way to send messages to other villages. So that's in our DNA. You can't have Harlem without having the African drummers. You
Mm-hmm.
can't have Harlem without having Sunday service at church,
Mm-hmm.
seeing the ladies and men dressed to the nines, worshiping and fellowshipping together. You can't have Harlem without having faith in so many ways, but more importantly, faith in each other. And as we get a lot of transplants, we welcome you. We definitely welcome you. But we also ask that you allow us to be us and that we're able to live together organically and in a loving way. In a loving way where we allow Harlem to heal. We allow Harlem to shine. And at the end of the day, we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers, and we must live together.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you.
This program is, Harlem is healing. This is a Harlem is Healing Dialogue.
It is.
It is, and it's important that we continue these conversations and that we also honor people like yourself. And I was honored to be the one to talk to you because you mean so much in my life and the Harlem ambassador, the Harlem community.
Musa, you mean so much to so many people. But I'd be remiss if I didn't take this moment to talk about the importance of keeping our stories alive. You are doing one of the most important things that I can ever think about, and that's telling our stories. Our stories must be told by us. Mm. Okay. And we must control the narrative in the media The only way that we're able to do that is if we own the media. So you owning, Ambassadors Magazine, owning this platform, it is so irrelevant that we own our stories and also that we tell our stories. So thank you for keeping history and her story alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody for joining us and joining Harlem is Healing. And I guess we'll see you next time. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.
Great, great day.